Election, in my own personal understanding, they do two things. It's either they make us and give us hope, or they're going to break us. With the 2024 elections, they are quite interesting elections. I think we have beautiful slogans. I think different parties have beautiful slogans. I don't know beyond the ballot if that's going to be the case. I do feel like young people have awoken. They have realized that we've been failed by the majority party and the government just in general. And for the first time in South Africa, people are vocal about that. Someone said within our spaces that these elections are not about even change, right? They're about changing the driver of the bus, but it's still going to be the same people and the same struggles. And that's quite painful to say.
For the first time after 30 years, I'm not optimistic about what's going to happen. I'm anxious about what's going to happen after this elections. What happens if we have, you know, the different scenarios. It goes through my head. It gives me sleepless nights. And, you know, sometimes we think that it doesn't affect us on the ground. It does affect us. It does affect, it just almost when things are not right on top, then it affects what happens on the ground to us in communities. I'm concerned about my children and my children's children. And so, however, I know that there's many good people in South Africa and we can turn this around. So I have hope, but I'm not optimistic.
The born frees are 30 years. So the babies who experienced or were born into a new democracy, they've reached this point. Yet, if we try to measure pre-apartheid, post-apartheid, there are many things that have been achieved, and I want to be very clear. There are many things that I think has been achieved in each cycle of the election. We have more rights. I mean, the fact that I can sit here and even talk about this and engage about what it means, this election is a right that and a privilege we can never take for granted. So we're grateful to those that fought for the freedom. But when you are 30 years old, in this current economic climate, with the high levels of violence, where you do not know what your future will look like, who we elect to take us forward in this crux, in this very weird space we're in, is very important. So you want to elect leaders that are going to stand against the pushbacks and actually ensure that we remain focused on the fact that this freedom was hard fought and hard won. And we're going to do something about it.
Last weekend, there was an event I went to. We asked people to bring in the queer representatives in their political party, and only one party came. And then when they came explaining that their queer representative is not here, they're somewhere else. And we were like, couldn't you bring another person? So that indicated that you're not prioritizing. You have it in your manifestos, but if you don't have a queer representative in your political party, then how are we going to vote for you? I think this hype around election is going to die after June. Life will go back to normal. People will make promises that it's the same cycle. But what is different this time is younger people are more in tune to politics. Like they're using TikTok to campaign. Younger people are starting to talk about politics, anything that relates to politics and political parties. And I think in the next elections after these ones, I have a belief that you'll see younger people working for these political party organizations.
In terms of these elections, for the advocacy itself, I think it's important because there's a bill that has happened, and because there's now this concrete decrim bill that we know will follow a process in the next parliamentary administration, we understand the importance of who will be that administration. You know, is it people who have history of supporting sex work? And I think now as a collective, we've also moved on to it's voting, and now we've moved on to what happens after. What accountability are we, once you've promised me something, I want to know what's going to happen after.
So one of the things with elections and after elections as CSOs we're currently planning, the idea is not about who now sits in the seat. The idea is that the seat, no matter who's sitting in it, has to do a particular thing. So for example, the Minister of Social Development, for example, or the presidency, it doesn't matter. What matters is that whoever's sitting in those seats has to ensure that the constitutional promises made to people are honored, has to ensure that people are looked after in a way that we don't have people starving, we don't have children who are stunted, we don't have people without social protection. So whoever sits in the seat, we will continue to pursue that and ensuring that people's rights are promised, no matter who is sitting there. And so essentially post-election for us, the battle simply continues. What we hope to see post-elections is a renewed commitment to ensuring that the poor are taken care of. But in the absence of that, we'll keep up the fight.
You know, as someone that's been in social justice for so many years, I wish that we can have a social justice coalition that works together. A social justice coalition that holds government accountable, that we have networks in place, that we can speak with one voice.
Accountability is, for me, is the umbrella. It has to cover, it's a balloon that puts all of it in the, it's a basket. It must hold all of this together. Otherwise, you threaten civil society. All our efforts are futile and our society is not advancing.
Everyone is just excited now, telling us what we want to hear. But after the ballot, people forget about us and forget about communities. I don't think political parties are an alternative to our problem. I think we need to organize and mobilize ourselves and fight for what is rightfully ours.